Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Purposeful Wisdom Podcast. I am Dawne Christine.
And I am Dee May.
Welcome back, guys. Before we get started, thank you guys so much for liking and subscribing to our previous videos. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much for supporting this channel and getting the word out there. It means the world to us. With that said, I want to introduce a beautiful woman that came on our podcast today, Amandadavis. Amanda is a registered nurse. She is certified health and life coach. She's also a certified Clarity Catalyst trainer. She holds several degrees, including an associate degree in mental health and human services, a Bachelor of Sciences in psychology, a Bachelor of Science in nursing, and a Master of Science in nursing with a focus in education and leadership. Also, Amanda is a nationally certified in clinical leadership and holds a certificate in intrinsic trauma response. Amanda's current role as a well-being specialist has propelled her into the well-being space. Her specialties are stress reduction, mindset shift, self-love, perception, reflection, and transformation. Showing others how to find their light, the answers are inside of you, brings joy, balance, and peace into her own life. And she believes that self-care is healthcare. When she's not busy trying to save the world, Amanda enjoys time with her 2 boys, 2 dogs, and husband while listening to music, creating art, and making memories with family and friends. Welcome, Amanda. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh. And in addition to all of that beautiful commentary that you just received from Dawne, Amanda is my dear friend. And I'm so happy to have you here today, Amanda, to join us on this podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This is really exciting. So what a great way to spend an afternoon and having a conversation with you lovely ladies. So I'm happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited you're on here. And usually, as our listeners know, we close with a quote, but today we're going to switch it up and we're going to open with the quote that Amanda has brought to us today.
Yeah, so that was really a great thing to ask, and something that I choose to live by is a quote, and it is actually from a Pink Floyd song, and it is, "All you touch and all you see is all your life will ever be." And that really resonates with me because I think that you need to recognize that this is one life, and how you choose to live it and what you choose to experience and what you give your energy to is it. It's so powerful. So I really do love that quote, and I try to live by that.
It is an awesome quote.
Awesome.
It definitely is. And we can make it positive or negative, whatever we choose. So embracing those positive experiences in life so that we can create more of that is really an awesome possibility that we get to enjoy.
Absolutely.
So how do you feel your nursing background plays into that?
Oh gosh, yeah. I like I said, I've been a nurse for 16 years, had a whole variety of experiences, and you just get to impact so many people, and not just the patients you take care of, their families, your coworkers. There's just so many different personalities and so many facets of nursing, whether you're teaching, so you have students. I mean, the possibilities are endless of the folks that you're impacting, and they also impact you. And I think that's important to think about too, is that you're not immune to that energy that's given back to you. So being in that role in the last 16 years and seeing people triumph and seeing people struggle with challenges has really put me into the space that I am today, where I want to take a different approach and help people with their own well-being, whatever that means for them, because it's individual. I say that every day of my life. Well-being is your choice of what that is. I'm not a runner. That sounds like it stinks and it's really hot outside right now. But some people love to run. That's what they do. I want to turn on music and dance in my kitchen, and that makes me happy. So, I think it's important to think about well-being and what it means for you. And I've seen well-being or health tried to be achieved the conventional way. And sometimes that works, but being able to add in coaching and support for folks and helping them with the way that they see the world and the way that they see themselves, what they tell themselves, the stories that we tell ourselves is really important to have, in my opinion, the whole body, the mind, the body, the spirit being able to heal itself, not just a medical element, for example.
Completely agree with that, Amanda. I'm very similar to you on how I approach my clients and how I coach. I think it's a trifecta: mind, body, soul. Starts with the mind, starts with the mindset. What do we tell ourselves? What is the story we tell ourselves each and every day? Maybe going back in and changing the narrative, relearning belief systems, getting rid of things that no longer serve us. So it is a trifecta, and I really agree with that.
Absolutely. And there's science behind this. This isn't kind of this hokey, oh, wellness and eat some kale and get some sleep and you'll be fine. Like there is science, there's research to demonstrate that folks that believe, that they can get well. Folks that use things like support groups, for example, achieve better outcomes. So there really is something to be said about the mindset. And again, the stories that we tell ourselves, the narrative that we develop is so important in these spaces.
Right. I definitely agree with you about
Did
that.
the community.
It brings to mind a story that I heard about a gentleman who was diagnosed with cancer and was given 6 months to live. And then he kept getting worse. And then they did some more tests on him and found out that he actually did not have cancer. But his mindset around the original diagnosis was so strong. And he had written this whole story for himself in his mind, obviously, of how this was going to play out. And even after he received the diagnosis of not having cancer, he couldn't let go of that original diagnosis. And in 6 months, that man died and he did not even have the cancer. So that is how powerful our mind stories can be. It's incredible.
And
Oh my
Dee,
gosh.
just makes you think about that. You hear stories, right? So maybe you read something online, or maybe you're watching the nightly news, or maybe your neighbor tells you, as you're walking into your home about someone that they know. So you don't even know folks, and you hear stories and they emotionally charge us. We feel empathy or sorrow or maybe joy for people, right? I mean, I could get excited if you were telling me that you're getting married next weekend and I could not even know you. And I'm like, wow, that's so exciting. Congratulations, right. So I think about that, if we can so easily be affected emotionally, even from the stranger stories, that are out there in the world, thinking about how we're so affected and impacted by the folks that are close to us, the people that we know. And again, how we're receiving that information and how we're processing that information is so powerful.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
so what
for
would
sure.
you say to someone who wants to change their story that they've been telling themselves?
I think that's a great question. And I struggle with this even personally, because I felt that, who am I, right? Who am I to tell people how to think or what to feel, right? And I even had to change that narrative for myself, because that is not what I am here to do. I want to work with folks to say, what do you want to achieve? And start working backwards to say, what is it that causes you to not get up to go to the gym? Or what is it that causes you to stay up late at night and, binge watch TV and not get a good night's sleep? So kind of thinking about it from, that perspective, and then hopefully trying to help folks achieve a different outcome. Well, what would happen if you did turn off the TV and go to bed? Or what would happen if you didn't hit snooze and you got up and went to the gym? But I think it's important for people to know that these are the things that I struggle with too every day. This isn't a perfect system. We all have to make choices, and that's really what it is. I mean, you can literally make probably 100, 500 choices a day, whether that is, what you eat for breakfast or when you brush your teeth. We're making those choices. So being able to help people figure out that if you make choices a little bit more on this side than that side, maybe at the end of the day, they'll feel a little bit better.
Right. And I think for a lot of people too, when it comes to the whys, because all of us, all three of us, we know it's the why behind the why behind the why. We as coaches know that. We get to the root. It's fear. It's fear of the unknown, because everybody goes to the negative. Oh my gosh, the world's gonna collapse. Everything's gonna go to crap. And instead of thinking of it that way, it's like, but what if it could be this way? We always tend to pull towards the negative side of everything instead of automatically learning to see the positive. Well, what if it does go right? What if it does go the way you want it? We always tend to go back to the negative. So it's changing that mindset, like you said, and just having people see it from a different perspective, a different point of view. And that alone could just bring them to the light, so to speak, really.
Right.
Well, I found
And I
that
think that's
some people have a real opposition to the light, because I'm in this spiritual community, and I find it really interesting that sometimes I have to actually get out of the threads, because incredibly enough, there's a lot of negativity there some days, and people get really dark. And I made that comment one day to try to, get people back into the light, like, come over here where things are good, and I got called naive, which, whatever. I mean, that's their opinion and that's fine. It didn't hurt my feelings at all. But it's so interesting that someone will call you naive because you're trying to show them a more positive way of looking at a situation. Have you found that with people that you talk to?
I think it's interesting. There's all these hot topic, statements out there nowadays. Like I honestly didn't even know what, positive toxicity was, right? Like I had to look it up. I'm like, what the heck does that even mean? Right. Along with a whole nother slew of words, but that's for another conversation. Right. But this like, toxic positivity, and I do think that people want to poo-poo on people that are trying to be positive or trying to see the good in things, because we are wired for the negativity, right? And realistically, that's not our fault, right? Historically, if we want to think about it from a science perspective, back in the day, way back in the day, we needed to be aware of the negative outcomes, because that's what drove us to being able to survive, right? So our brains are predispositioned to recognize the negative. They're predispositioned to be aware of what dangers might occur. Unfortunately, evolution hasn't caught up with us, and we haven't realized that we're not hunting and gathering and being chased by bears anymore, right? The biggest stress or the biggest threat in our lives is really ourselves and our mindset these days. And and it's hard to shift that, and I think that it's not something you just like get up and do, like, oh, it's Monday, so I'm going to shift my mindset. It takes a lot of practice, because you easily can catch yourself being kind of drawn back into those habits. There's comfortability, even if it's uncomfortable, but that's how you're used to feeling. It's comfortable, if that makes sense.
Right.
We talk about that a lot in stress management, right? So, we reset the baseline. If you're at a level 8 all the time, that's kind of where you are. That's your baseline. It might be uncomfortable, but that's what your baseline is. So, being able to sort of reset where we start and getting a grip on that is so important.
And
And learning to be uncomfortable, like,
yeah,
get comfortable being uncomfortable. I mean, Dee and I say that all the time. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's the only way you're going to grow.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
And the easiest example of that is working out, right? I just went to work out this morning. It was horrible. I didn't want to go. It's leg day on a Monday, and totally miserable and uncomfortable, but I feel better. You know, I got
Right,
through it. I
right.
really, you know, I can do this, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And I don't have to be the strongest person there because I'm doing it for me.
Right.
So absolutely.
That's
I did
right.
uncomfortable.
And anytime we're starting out something new, just like going to the gym and starting to work out, your muscles get sore, you're unfamiliar, you're like, am I doing this right? I don't even know. Like, people might look at me and think, what are you doing over there? And am I wearing the right clothes? And is something creeping out of some place that it shouldn't be? Now I need to tuck anything back in. You know what I mean? And it's all this weirdness that you feel when you're doing it. It is the exact same when you're learning how to change your story, and you're learning how to, especially when you're learning how to compliment yourself or take a compliment. I know
Yes.
one of my coaching clients, I like to tell my people to say that they're awesome. And it's so funny. Like, we will make ourselves less in a second. Like, we will like proudly and loudly proclaim, I'm an idiot, to anybody who will listen, right? But saying I'm awesome makes people all of a sudden, like, in her physical body, like her physical body went just like
Oh
that. And
yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh,
Ooh.
like, look at that. The physical and nonverbal communication is like a huge percentage of communication. So when you see
Yes,
someone
it
just
is.
shrink themselves down like that, it is very telling in how they're feeling inside of themselves, you know?
Right.
So, and it's been so much fun over the course of time and the weeks of coaching, that now she will sit there and be like, I'm awesome. I am awesome. And it's
Proud.
so
Right.
powerful to see her own that now. But it didn't start out that way. It started out with the discomfort. That muscle was weak. That complementary muscle to herself was weak, and it showed. But over time, you get to build that, just like working in the gym. But you don't get out of that discomfort by quitting, right? You have to still keep going.
I think it's so important to take really simple, very well-known things to people. And even if you're not an athlete, right? But you know, nowadays people work out, we talk about it, people have memberships and all kinds of things, right? So I think it's really important to take very familiar things for people and make that connection, make those analogies, because you're exactly right. That's exactly what it is. You know, you have to make an effort to do what you're doing. You know, you have to make an effort to be nice to yourself, to compliment yourself, to stop, you know, the negative, you know, thoughts, to set boundaries, to do
Yeah.
things that make you feel good, you know. And those things are hard, especially if we all come from places of being caregivers or people pleasers. It's really easy, and so easy to get kind of lost in the I'm going to make everybody else feel better before I make myself feel better.
That's right.
For sure.
Yeah, I think
You
we
have to hold yourself to the same standard you hold other people in your life. And if you don't do that, you can't give all of yourself to whoever you're trying to help too. You
Yeah.
know, you got to hold yourself to a certain standard and know that you are deserving of the exact same treatment of how you treat others in the outside world.
Yes. It's very, very true. And it really does start with that thought, is that people taking on this challenge of being good to themselves, because that's really what it feels like, isn't it? It
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
does feel like work, which is unfortunate, but it is the place that we are in right now as far as society and evolution, right? We're very used to um you know, the negative mindset or not complimenting ourselves. My goodness, I feel like if as a young girl, if you stood up straight, it was you were pushing out your boobs, so
Yeah.
you kind of notch down, you know. Or if you compliment yourself, you're conceited. What the kind of crap is that? You should be able
Yeah.
to stand tall and say I'm awesome, you know. But we were told that you can't, or that you shouldn't, or that you were, I don't know, some sort of negative attribute if you did the things that were good for you. So I think that we're shifting these mindsets for sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And I
That's
think
the
it is
hope.
very important for people to realize that self-confidence and arrogance or narcissism are not the same thing. You know, they're not even close.
No,
Yeah, and
not
I
at
think
all.
that is such a huge point, and that's exactly what I was getting at, is that, you know, being confident and being willing to take care of you is not the same as putting others last or being a narcissist, or, you know, all of those other negative type of behaviors. That is absolutely not the same, and it gets easily confused, I think, unfortunately.
I think
People
it
like to
does
label
too.
things too. Yeah, I mean, I think especially for people that don't have that self-love muscle worked out or that confidence level worked out, they'll look at people like the three of us who are strong, confident women, but are far from narcissistic and have their intentions in the right place, but they'll look at people and be like, well, she's full of herself. No, I'm just confident in myself. I know my capabilities. I know who I am as a person. And it sucks that you feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say, you should reach out to me because I can help you not feel that way.
Right.
Because we know, right, typically people that are feeling that way, that are judging folks, you know, they have their unresolved issues. You know, we only react that way and respond that way to folks around us or others around us because of our own insecurities and our own
Right.
self-confidence issues. And we know that if you are really embodying you know, loving yourself and caring for the folks around you, then you don't ever feel that way. I want to be, you know, proud and supporting of the people that I love. I know with Dee and I, like, anything that she's doing, I'm so happy for her. You know, it's
Right.
figures. I can't believe you're doing this. Like, that would never even be a thought in my brain, because
Right.
I
Right.
want you to succeed. I want you to be happy. So I think that's important to think about, for sure.
I'm tired of people thinking that way too. I'm tired of that crap. You
Right.
know, we all, and I mean, Dee and I have talked about this so many times. We all have our own crowns.
Yeah.
We ain't trying to steal each other's. Like, you
Right.
know, for me in particular, I didn't even know what it was to have my own crown to begin with. And then to put it on and then to fucking adjust it. Like, I didn't know any of that, right? So having this supportive system, especially as women, we're so much in this competition crap has to stop. Could
Yeah.
you imagine what women can do if we all work together and pull together, like what we could accomplish? Like, and I know there's women out there that think like us. I know this for a fact,
Yeah.
but get it through your head. Like, people are like, there's a certain breed in this life that ain't trying to steal your crown. We're trying to help you fix yours. We want nothing out of it. You know, we're here to support you and build a sisterhood, and like, stop being intimidated by that.
Well,
Stop. Just
and I think
stop.
a lot of that's fear driven, because people are afraid if someone
Oh
else
yeah.
is succeeding, there's not going to be enough for them. But like Wayne Dyer says, the ocean of abundance is vast, it's infinite. There's enough
Yes.
there for all of us to have our fill, no matter whether we get a thimbleful once a month or if we go fill up a freaking dump truck, the biggest one we can find 5 times a day. That ocean of abundance doesn't go down. There's enough for all of us. And I think for, you know, women who, you know, straighten each other's crowns in private and just celebrate each other in public, it's, to me, that is one of the most beautiful things, because women are known for being catty. That's the word that used to get said a lot. Women
Yeah.
are cat fight and all that crap. And it's true, but
Uh-uh.
we're changing the paradigm. We're changing it. And I think it's really beautiful. And, you know, I support and celebrate both of y'all too. I do. And I love it. You know,
Oh
we can
gosh.
stand side by side,
Absolutely.
and I can say, I'm a coach. This is my friend. She's a coach. This is my friend. She's a coach. And I don't feel like
Yes.
by me saying y'all are coaches is going to take a client away from me, you know, because I'm going
That's
to
right.
have the clients I'm meant to have. I'm going to have the people in my life I'm meant to have. And the same goes for y'all. And we're not taking anything away from each other.
Nope.
That's right. And when you have that mindset to begin with, and you understand that, man, what a support system you have, because no one's in competition. There's no competition here. We're beautiful souls that are trying to make the world a better place.
That are
And it
making
really
That's
does.
it.
That it opens up the world of possibility when you allow things in. Nobody can do this alone, and we've realized that. We all are kind of working on our own thing and doing our own thing, but it really does take a team of people, whether that is if you want to host a podcast, if you want to teach classes, having a team and being able to work with people not only is really fulfilling for me personally, but I also get my energy from that. Like, I am
Yes.
loving group projects and being able to collaborate and have think tanks. That's where my most creative flow gets going, because I'm feeding off of your energy and we're coming up with ideas and we're like, wow, this is great. How are we going to move forward with this? And I would never be able to achieve the things that I've done without some sort of sense of community. And I've always found that, even when I was in grad school, there were four of us, including myself, that became quick friends. The most diverse group of people, all from age to background, to whether or not we even had kids. I mean, it's just very diverse group of women. But we all were in this program together, and it was torture, so we created an alliance. And I'm still very much in touch with those women today, and we still support each other in our roles. And I think it's just really important to find your tribe, if you will, and cherish that. There are so many people out there in the world. I think it's easy to think, oh my gosh, I need some clients, or how am I going to find people, and is there enough? I was driving the other day on a major highway in this area, and I was thinking to myself, like, looking at all the cars going in the same direction as me, if half of these cars that I can see right now became my clients, that would be the only job I would need. Think about that.
Right.
You're just in one little section of the highway, and there's all these vehicles, and look how many more millions of people live in this world, right? So I really do believe that, Dee. I think the abundance is out there. Just being able to, my goal is to figure out how to get connected with the people that I am meant to help. And I think that's
Right.
important to think about. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason we
Agreed.
started this podcast, was to help people get connected and feel that sense of community, and get to know people, and pick out someone they feel like they resonate with their comfort level, because everyone is different. Everybody has a different personality, and everyone has a different strength, different backgrounds. Dawn's background is different from mine, and we have a lot of similarities back there, but it's a lot different. And then yours is different also. So finding someone that you vibe with, so how would you suggest to someone to find their soul tribe? You mentioned that. How would you suggest that they do that?
It's interesting. I'm someone that I believe I'm very fortunate. I have a lot of girlfriends that I've known most of my life. One of my oldest, bestest friends I've known since I was 3. So I feel very fortunate that way. But I do recognize how complicated that can be for people, whether maybe they've moved, or maybe there was a divorce that occurred and it separated, those relationships. So being able to move forward, and for people to find their tribe is really, again, all you touch and all you see is all your life is ever going to be. You have to put yourself in places that you're going to find those like-minded people. Maybe you're athletic and you want to, I know that there are clubs here in my area that people play recreational sports as adults, so maybe that's your thing, that you want to go play some kickball or soccer or whatever that is. And then you're going to, hopefully stumble upon people that are like-minded. Maybe you want to, join some sort of other activity. Maybe it's something in your church, depending on what your faith is, or what you believe in, or what your community is. So I think just really being able to put yourself out there and being open. People that I have met, probably even in the last 5 years of my life, are probably not even the same people that I would have resonated with 5 years ago. And I say that because I have learned so much in this journey of coaching and just experiencing things that the folks that I am interested in have different backgrounds than me and different perspectives, and they bring something new to the table that is a little bit different than maybe what I would have resonated with a few years back. And I think that's important too, to think about, that we're always
Yes.
growing, we're changing. And, I do believe that, again, I have friends that I've known since I was a little girl, but our lives have grown and we've managed to maintain those connections. But that's not to say that you still don't change, and that people that you are attracted to, might be different. And that's okay. You have to open your mind to those possibilities. And yeah, and just be willing to sort of say, oh, wow, I really do enjoy this person or spending time with this person, and being open to that.
Yeah.
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 I am
I
a
love
big
that.
firm believer, and I tell my kids this all the time. I'm a firm believer that people are attracted to us, or we are attracted to them, and not romantically, but just in,
Right.
your vibe. You have
Right.
friendships and relationships with folks. But I'm a firm believer that people like us or you because of how we make them feel about themselves.
Mhm.
And I'm really conscious of that in my later years in adulthood. and I really do try to instill that in my children all the time, is that, people will gravitate to you and they will love you because of how you make them feel about themselves. And I think that's so important in this life.
Mhm.
I agree with that.
I do
Yeah.
too. Creating a safe space for people to be authentically themselves, because, I think one of the things you said a minute ago was people have different perspectives, and they do. And I love that. That's why I love talking to people. And I'll talk about any topic as long as you maintain your sense about yourself, because like I don't mind talking about anything, but I'm not arguing. I'm not going to try to convince you of my way, and I don't want you to try to convince me of your way. You can share your way with me, and that's cool. Different perspectives are beautiful, and I love talking to other people because I always learn something. And I think that's really, really
Yes.
important, that we're always teaching each other. I feel like I'm teaching people when I open my mouth and speak, and vice versa. Or even if it's just the way you carry yourself, I might think, I wonder what it would be like if I, you know, took 5 minutes to, like straighten my hair with a curling iron or whatever, and I actually did that this morning. I
Stop
told her it's
it.
like amazing what 5 minutes worth of effort will make in your life, right? But
Hmm.
okay, I'm known for the messy bun, so but it is important because we do see things differently, and I
Mhm.
think teaching and talking and learning and growing and allowing people to be authentically themselves, no matter how goofy they are. And man, like I'm as goofy as they come some days, and just making people feel at home and safe with that. I think that's really important.
I think that's
And
a
that's the thing
big.
too, Dee, genuine, being genuine about it too. It's not an act. It's like, this is coming from this person's heart. This is genuinely how I am, to make others feel genuinely comfortable around it too. So there is a difference, because there's people out there too, let's face it, that are fake. And they're like, oh, I have to, people pleasers, I have to do it this way to make them think I'm the best. Then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Then that's your ego talking. So making sure that you show up in this world as authentically you, the best version of you could be, so that others who gravitate towards you are genuinely accepting of who you are, and vice versa.
Mhm.
Think it's such a hot topic right now, is this idea of psychological safety. I don't know if you all are hearing this. I'm hearing
Mhm.
it a lot.
Yeah.
It's such a hot topic, and it's really about, having these non-judgmental spaces and allowing for folks to, have ideas and be able to speak about how they feel and what is going on. We talk about this so much in the world of healthcare, that you need to have psychological safety to create a safe environment.
Right.
You need to be able to speak up. You need to be able to say, hey, did you wash your hands? And not be afraid to say that, depending on what your status is in that environment and what your role is. It really matters. And I think it's so important in all of our relationships to allow folks to have an opinion, to say what they need to say, to be able to express that maybe you hurt their feelings, or maybe they were offended by something, and not, react to that in also a negative way, to be able to say, oh my gosh, let me think about this for a second. How can we do this better, is so, so important. And it just seems like it's a very hot topic right now, for sure.
Yeah, it's compromising too. Like, there's your way, their way. There's a million different ways to do something in this world. It's not necessarily a right or wrong, she's right, he's right, he's right, she's right kind of crap. There's your version, their version, and the truth. Like, there's so many different ways you can look at this. But I think I agree with what you said. It's about holding space for the other person, be them, you be you. And if you all don't agree on something, agree to disagree about it and compromise. Compromise about it. Oh, figure it out together. There's this status of you have to be right about everything. Why? Figure it out, and maybe you're both wrong. Maybe you're both right.
It's very true. It's so, so true. And it's interesting because one of the things that I talk about a lot is this idea of perception, or perception reflection, being able to reflect upon what you see as happening, or what you believe to be true. And I think it's so important to think about, because we do know that perception, oh my goodness, is really so much of all of this, right? What we're seeing, what we're telling ourselves, so being able to be aware that maybe this isn't even about you, right? I tell people that all the time. Like, did you ever think that maybe it isn't even about you? And it's hard to accept, right? Because it's always about us, right? But I really do think, having that ability to recognize how you're perceiving something and be able to reflect upon that will really help with that mindset shift, and help with those habits that we have, and really help to kind of change the direction that we're moving as far as your personal journey.
Yeah. And asking clarifying questions. You mentioned about, like, if somebody gets offended, I feel like 99% of the time, anything that people get offended about is their perspective of it, and they might not actually know what the person meant when they said it. So if you just go back to that person and say, hey, like, what did you mean when you said blah blah blah, and giving that space, because I guarantee you, most of the time when you're offended by something people say, they did not mean to offend you. I mean, it is not deliberate. I would say 99% of the time, but at least a very large percentage of the time, it's not intentional. So just going back and asking that quick question instead of holding a grudge and then running to your coworker and running your mouth. And then the next thing you know, you have this hostile work environment, and the person that said whatever it was that you were offended by has no idea they even offended you, because they didn't mean to do it in the first place.
They don't even remember saying it half the time. They're like, did I say that? What? Yeah. It's so funny. I give a talk on exactly this. It's basically this idea that communication is the problem with communication. And it is exactly that discussion. It's all about, your perception and what our communication styles are, and things that kind of get thrown into the gossip train, if you will. And it is really quite fascinating when you start thinking about how easily things can get spun into something that was not intended to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have to just say this. So as you were talking, there's a quote I wrote a couple weeks back, because Dee and I were contemplating, like, hey, maybe in the future we'll do a podcast episode about communication, right? And it clicked. George Bernard Shaw said the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion it has taken place.
Right. Right.
I had to
Yes.
pull that quote out because I feel like that's so fit what you just said.
It's so
We
true.
play stories in our head, we make a scenario, it ain't even true, and then we believe our own bullshit, and then like we run with it, and then it's like the other person's like, I don't know where you're getting all this from because I didn't say nothing.
Right. Very common, very, very common. I do a lot of work in the workplace, you know, and this is something that is discussed all the time, for sure.
Yeah. So how do we
Right.
fix it? How do we fix it, Amanda?
I think it again begins with just self-awareness, right? For giving people the option to fix it. Because so often we want to label folks and say, well, she's difficult, or he's never going to change, or, you know, and I think really sort of resetting that baseline again, right? And saying, you know what, starting today, we're going to give everybody kind of the benefit of the doubt. We're going to allow people, you know, to be what they want to be. And I think that's a huge starting point is to just kind of wipe the slate clean, you know, and then having people be aware. I think one of the biggest things that is such a roadblock when we are trying to fix things is just the self-awareness. You know, maybe people don't even recognize that there are different types of communication, for example, since that's what we were just talking about, you know. So maybe, you know, I've had someone recently talk to me and say, you know, people don't need education, they need transformation. And that is true to an extent. There is so many opportunities for people to learn. I mean, you can go online and Google anything in a hot second and learn all about it, right? We have AI and all of these, you know, areas for learning that aren't even formal these days. But I really do think that people do need some information, you know, and maybe they've heard it before, but giving a little bit of information with some context and then allowing people this space to process that and to give them the opportunity to change.
Yeah, to use the information, because that just reminded me of that old quote, knowledge is power, which has been changed and it has evolved over time into knowledge is potential power. Because if you don't do anything with the knowledge, then it's not really power. It's just knowledge. It's like a book on a shelf that's never been opened, you know, it doesn't do you any good.
Right. Absolutely. Right. But I really do think, you know, for any of these topics, when we're thinking about, you know, negative self-talk, when we're thinking about the way we communicate, when we think about how we make other folks feel about themselves, it really is about being self-aware, you know, and being able to start from the very beginning and again, getting uncomfortable, recognizing that maybe you're an aggressive communicator. That was me. You know, that was hard to hear. I'm like, I'm not aggressive. I just, so what? I send one word emails back.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm not aggressive.
I'm not aggressive at all. What are you talking about? You know, but being able to accept, you know, what that perception is of yourself and being able to reflect. And again, it's a lot of just being uncomfortable and apologizing even, you know,
Yeah.
because
We don't like to do
you know,
that, do we? Holy crap.
right, you know,
Go aside and own your crap.
right. And like I said, this is a work in progress. Again, you know, when I started into this world, I was like, who's going to listen to me? Who's going to want to work with me? I've got all my own crap I'm dealing with, right? And you tell yourself that, you know?
Absolutely.
Imposter syndrome.
Absolutely.
We've all had, like, I have it too. Dee, I know you've had it. Like, we're all like, who are we to?
Who am I? Like, I'm not perfect. So how could I possibly tell someone else to live? And I've learned that I don't need to be perfect, and nobody does.
Right.
We don't need to be perfect. We just need to be trying to be the best versions of ourselves. And that is really what my focus is, and what I hope to help my clients achieve through coaching is, how do you get to be the best version of yourself, whatever that means for you?
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Because my opinion is that perfection doesn't even exist. And here's why I say that. I say that because I feel like it's an illusion. And because everyone has a different perspective, and we're going back to that word again, of what perfection looks like. And we can look at this, and when I said this in one of the talks that I gave for this company, we can use the woman's body as a perfect example of what is perceived as perfection. You know, some people will swear she's 5'11" and she's 36, 24, 36. You know what I mean? But some people would say, nah, man, we need more boobies than that, you know, or a little more back there in the trunk, you know, or whatever. Or, you know, it could be something completely different than that. In some cultures, women who are heavy are very sought after. And some, you know, models are like a size 2, and some people think that's beautiful, and they're stick straight and have no curves anywhere in sight. You know, body like a back road doesn't exist in the world of modeling. It does now, because we've learned that not everybody has to conform to a certain look, you know. So what is perfect? If we look in just that one world of the woman's body, what is perfect? It just
All of
different.
it is.
Yeah, it's
Right.
different based on who's looking, you know. What one person thinks is perfect, another person is like, no. So I just, and it's that way with everything you look at. I feel like it's like art. It's so subjective what perfection is. So in my opinion, my respectful opinion, perfection just doesn't exist. It's an illusion.
Right. Absolutely. And I agree with you on that one 100%. And I know, again, you know, as we grow and as we make our connections and we hear things and maybe quotes or podcasts or webinars, or maybe you read a book, you know, we're constantly growing, we're constantly gravitating towards things that make us feel good. And I think that is what we should be striving for. You know, there isn't this, you know, it's like perfection is like the pot at the end of the rainbow. It's like you can never quite get there.
Yeah. The
You know,
bar's
you're
always
like, I
moving.
can't find the gold. Right. You know, it just doesn't exist. And I think that, you know, being able to do what is right for you and not comparing yourself to others and just feeling good. But it's a journey. Like I said,
It
you
is a
can be
journey.
the most educated, most certified person out there and still have work to do. You know,
Yeah.
you still have to catch yourself. You still have to put yourself in check and say, oh, I was being very judgy just now at the store.
I
um,
catch
Here's
myself
how I look
doing
at that too,
sometimes.
Amanda. The person that comes across saying that they don't have any work to do, that's the person that needs the most work. Because
right.
in order for us to grow as humans, we're always evolving, we're always learning, we're always growing. It's never gonna be like, here's the pot at the end of the rainbow. I've made it, I'm perfect at, like, no. Grow, learn your lessons, grow again, take a step back, maybe revisit what you got doing, maybe that'll change, grow again. Like, it's growing upon growing upon growing. It is never going to end, ever. We're not supposed to stop growing.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't want to get stuck. You know, we were
Right.
talking about that a little bit earlier, is that you just don't want to get stuck. It's fine to be content, and it's fine to be happy with where you are, but I don't want to ever be stuck. And I think that's
Yes.
important. And I think most of people who struggle or have some sort of misery that they're tolerating or dealing with are stuck. And I think that's one of the major roles of a coach right now these days, is that,
Yes.
Yeah.
you know, there's all these conversations about coaching versus therapy, and where do you draw the line, and what is what, and what is the ethical thing, and who you know, who knows what the best answers are, right? And I really truly believe that I have a very good grasp of that. I really truly understand the difference, probably mostly because I've spent a huge chunk of my career working in a space with licensed professionals. But I do truly believe that for people to get unstuck, there needs to be some type of accountability, some type of plan, some type of motivation to help move them into the next phase. And I really do believe that that is what coaching is all about.
Yeah.
You know, it isn't a constantly rehashing the past and, you know, talking about, you know, all the feelings that you had when you were 7. You know, like
Yeah.
that stuff happened. It's over. And, you know, let's think about how we can help you move forward from here. And I think that's such an important part of what the role is of a coach, is how to
Yes.
help people get out of their own way, get them unstuck.
Bingo.
Absolutely. And your
Mhm.
coaching business is called A Path to Happy, right? How can our guests find you if they
Yes.
want to
Yeah.
have you as their coach?
Yeah, you know, I have a social media account, of course. It's honestly at this point Amanda Davis on social media. It's very simple to find me. But path2happy.net is my website. So Path to Happy. Definitely a little play on words there, you know, with the Path to Happy.
Love that.
Yeah, you know, really about, you know, getting on your own path. Again, really huge believer, and it's different for all of us, you know. So what is going to take you to your happy space? Yeah, so
Exactly.
yep,
Love it.
path
And
to
we'll
And
we'll
guys,
put all
we'll
your
link all of Amanda's information in the description. Yeah, we'll do all that so everyone will know where to find you too. And we always advertise our guest speakers on our description page too, just for everyone. It's free range. Just shoot, you know, you can help someone, there's your information. So we got you for sure.
Yeah, I
and
love
thank you
that.
everyone for joining in. We are going to remind you once again to like and subscribe. And you can find Amanda's information down below in the description. And thank you so much, Amanda, for joining us on our podcast today. I'm so excited. We'll have you back again.
Thank you so much.
I
Amanda,
know,
this was
this was
awesome.
just so fun, and time flies. I feel like I could talk about this stuff all day, every day. So anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
Very
Thanks,
welcome.
Amanda.